Good morning, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be looking at the Samyang 24mm F2.8 and why you might want to consider having one. Thanks a lot and stay tuned. As anyone who has been into photography for at least a few years knows, everything is about a succession of various obsessions. When it comes to lenses in particular, there are quite a few stages. Once you get past the stage of actually getting a camera, the first stage is trying to figure out which one lens will do it all. You see this in the photography groups in the form of questions like, what is the best lens for? Or if you could just have only one lens, which one would it be? This often leads to getting a zoom lens with the most focal options possible. Very quickly one realizes that your children and cats don't look great using natural light in your house, photographing between f4 and f5.6. This will often lead to faster zoom lenses of the f2.8 variety, which, as we all find out, still aren't great for indoor photos without at least a flash. This often leads to obsession number 2 of finding the fastest lens possible, after being told that prime lenses are the way to go. The hunt for the fastest lens with the best bokeh is an expensive lesson in gear management, as you realize that many of these lenses weigh as much as the big zoom lenses that are sitting behind you on the shelf. The next obsession is optional, and often one experienced more by men for some reason. This is the obsession of old vintage lenses, which for me personally was the most pointless of all. It took me 6 cheap manual focus lenses and all of their associated lens adapters to realize how little interest I had in going down this rabbit hole. What I did take away from the vintage lens obsession was the realization that I loved very small, lightweight lenses. Eventually, this led to my current collection of relatively small f1.8 lenses that combine many of the traits of the lenses mentioned previously, but without the weight. Now, there are 2 different directions we can go from here. As you have probably seen, there are some pretty great cameras on the market that have amazing quality with a fixed lens anywhere from 28 to 45 millimeters. But this leads me to the subject of this video, which is just how small lenses can actually be. Over the last while, I realized that I still sometimes don't take a camera with me, and despite what way too many YouTubers try to convince me of, I still don't love photos that come from cell phones. And this led me to the topic for today, the Samyang 24mm F2.8. Let's have a look at a few lenses to compare just how small the Samyang 24mm F2.8 actually is. To start with, this is the Tamron 28-70 F2.8, and it's actually considered to be quite a small lens in this focal range. Next, we'll look at the Tamron 17-28, which is also quite small, especially for a lens this wide. And it's an easy carry around lens, but you can see how big it is here. Now, this next lens is the Sony 35mm F1.8, which is considered to be a very tiny lens and one that's great to use on the camera, one that I love actually. And then finally we see how that tiny lens compares to the Samyang 24mm F2.8. You can see there's quite a difference in the size. As you can see by this video clip, you can also use the 20mm f2.8 with video, and it works perfectly well. The focus is fine. It's not the widest angle that you can get for doing this sort of work. I have this on a bit of a little tripod, which I can show you with my camera. This is what the setup looks like. And it's a nice, tiny little setup. Ugly wire, mind you. That works great. Like I said, it's a little bit narrow, but I'm using active stabilization, which is why. But it's actually quite gorgeous. So if I had to summarize what was so great about the Samyang 24mm f2.8, There aren't a lot of things to talk about. It's not the sharpest lens that I have by any stretch of the imagination, but I can only tell that if I'm looking at it at 100% crop. It's not the fastest lens that I have, but I haven't seen it falter in any kind of situation, either with video or with doing stills. It catches up with everything that I need to do. It's also not the coolest lens that I have because it doesn't look like anything too special. But speaking of obsessions, and the one that I was talking about last, which is the smallest camera that you can get, you're not going to have very many lenses that can beat this form factor and this size. This allows you to bring the camera with you a lot more often than you would otherwise, and it allows you to not have to use your cell phone for all of your photos. Personally, I really like to work on raw files. I like to do the best job that I can on every file that I take, regardless if it's for a client or if it's for my own family. And this one really allows me to do all of that. It's definitely worth having. So that should about do it for my look at the Samyang 24mm F2.8. As you can see, it wasn't really a review, and there's lots of great reviews around that show you all the technical specs. But all I really wanted to demonstrate was the size and how useful it can be when you don't want to carry around a large setup, but still want the quality. Anyways, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.